Because I saw a couple of videos and it interested me so much. I'm getting tired of these white saviors because every single time they speak, the idea in their head is to say, oh my God, I have been told that my whiteness is a problem. I have been told that I am hurting a certain marginalized group and I must do my due diligence to help that marginalized group. And so I will stand firm and get in front of cameras, TVs, webcams, and anything else to make sure that people know I'm doing the work to stick up for the marginalized communities. Yet the things they say are backhanded insults to marginalized communities. And the fact that nobody checks this, nobody proofreads it, nobody says, I think you should reword this, is indicative to a bunch of idiots who they cater to, who will see that and say, you're right. We are pretty fucking dumb. We are pretty slow. We aren't gonna be able to get to your level. And it's just because you're somebody who just so happens to be of white privilege and of white standing. I can't hope to get on your level. I saw this very random TikTok come across my Twitter feed from, of course, Libs of TikTok. And I would just like for everybody to join me in the mind-numbingness of what it means to deal with white saviors trying to speak for me, the African American.
So we now know that trauma just makes it almost infinitely harder to learn when you're a child. And we also now know that systemic racism is essentially an adverse childhood experience. And many researchers qualify systemic racism as an adverse childhood experience, which means that children who are Black and brown in our schools are expected to be excellent while suffering from complex PTSD.
No, we're not.
And on top of that, we're also expecting these students to be excellent in a space that is actively hostile to them, their way of being,
it's a school,
who they are as people, their history, their ancestors, everything. So we now know that trauma just makes it.
It's a school where the premise I could be wrong because it's been a while since I had to put on a uniform, wake up, and hang around a bunch of musty human beings. But isn't the premise of being in school to be excellent, get good grades, pass tests, graduate, spend 4 more years in upgraded school? That's a waste of time and money. That's besides the point. And do it all again, rinse, repeat. This is not something where you could sit here and say, oh, because of systemic racism, we're somehow expecting children who are Black and brown to be perfect while they're suffering from systemic racism. You could just sit there and teach the class. It doesn't have to be this, oh, you poor little baboo, let me give you some special treatment because a law that you don't know about because you're in grade school and you're not really equipped to know about these things just yet. Hopefully, with the right teacher, you can learn about some of these things and the history of it. But no, we got to sit here and coddle. We got to sit here and make sure that we know that, oh, we have to be very cautious of this group of people because of this trauma, not realizing there's a bunch of different groups in a school who all have different experiences, who all could potentially have different forms of trauma, but we must sit here and cater to this group because systemic racism is the only form of trauma that these white saviors could even think of discussing. And what's so baffling to me, almost, not just the fact that we have somebody coddling and catering in such a manner that really does nothing overall with making sure people get good grades in school. You got a woman saying that grammar and writing rules are based in white supremacy. And her way to combat that is to just forget about it all.
Worried if I am part of the problem. What do I mean by that? Well, public education is an institution that upholds lots of problematic systems in our society, like white supremacy and misogyny and colonization, etc. In my role as an educator, I try to undermine that BS in my classroom as much as I possibly can. I teach high school English and whew, the white supremacy runs deep. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at how we write essays. Start with an introduction that includes a thesis. Always cite your sources. Use transition words like however and therefore. These are all made up rules. They're arbitrary. They were created by Westerners in power. In linguistic justice, April Baker.
Stop. My fucking head hurt. My 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 head hurt. What was there that was white supremacy? Putting your name, putting an introduction, a thesis? I'm sorry, but if I'm somebody in a job interview and somebody gives me their resume and they put Ebonics or whatever the fuck that black slang AAV type shit is on their paper and they expect to be hired, it ain't gonna fucking happen. I'm just being honest with y'all. You put incoherent language on a professional resume, you're not getting hired. Spare me that bull about, oh, it was taught for us to be like this because of white supremacy. You want to dress like you some slut that's paying for OnlyFans and you expect to get some lucrative job? It's not going to happen. You want to brand yourself as a hoe, as a thug, as a gangster, as a drug dealer, yet you expect to get something lucrative? And you want to combat somebody like me saying it ain't going to work by saying this is all rooted in white supremacy? You sound unequivocally stupid. You sound inept. You sound like you're allowing yourself to just be dumb without acknowledging the fact that there's a better way to go about this. Nothing that was described by this woman is white supremacy. It's learning how to write a paper. It's learning how to write an essay. You want me to just turn in a paper with words on it? No information about who did it, not the topic, not when it was done, or when I lie about when it's done, because papers could be due one day and I'm doing it 30 minutes before, just Googling things and putting copy and paste from Wikipedia. This game of trying to sound like you're helping people has to stop, because there's so many ideas just thrown out into the public that people think make sense, but when you actually sit back and listen to what people say, they are just slapping you in the face with a backhanded insult and just expecting you to smile and take it. I'm sorry, but if some white savior, whether if you're some fat teacher, some muscular dude trying to stand up for his black brothers, and you say something so outlandish that makes it seem like I can't do something as a grown adult in basic human society and in culture, that's not helping. That's not a compliment. You're just calling me slow and telling me I'm a little bit too inept to write a thesis paper. Now, while I will not want to, I will not respect and take lightly to being talked to like I can't do it and trying to butter it by saying, oh, it's all white supremacy. So once again, you white saviors, I have to point this out so that we all make sure that it's clear. You're doing this. You're speaking up for these marginalized people who don't care about you. They actively hate you. They have told you on these same platforms you get on to try to speak positivity that they don't like you. When are you going to get it through your mind? And if you still want to fall for that mentality of helping them, you can still do it. There's nothing wrong with helping people. You just got to make sure you're going about it the smart way and not just getting the victimhood opinion from a bunch of people who, I would like to remind you, tweet their issues from a phone that they probably didn't pay for because daddy had some money to spend. I understand y'all want to save the world, but y'all not doing it only listening to the weak-minded. Listen to people with a little bit more in their testicles and a little bit more gumption and a little bit more life experience. And maybe, just maybe, you won't sound like a dumbass, but I can't really put too much stock in that because all white saviors tend to be dumbasses. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.